Alright, what's up YouTube? It's me, Jefferson Chow, back at it again, here to talk about Restaurant Critic. And today our topic's gonna be about church. What is church to you? What does it mean in your own words? Let me know. No, I'm just kidding, I can't hear it anyway. Um, Church to me is honestly beyond just worship, beyond just a building. Church to me is just gathering and sharing. And I think it's really important to have a church. Not that church is about organization or churches is a community, but church as a relationship. So what I mean by church, I really mean a gathering and sharing relationship between people. So why I say a restaurant is a ministry. Well, when you go to church, well, what do you do? Or what do you guys do? You're there for the sermon, right? You're there for your favorite pastor. You're there for your favorite worship leader and how great the worship was. Me, I guess I'm more of a person of prayer, and you could be going to church for prayer. I'm a very loyal person, so how I found church, we'll save that for another YouTube channel. But my point is that we go to church for certain reasons. And as I talk about Restaurant Critic, I would like to relate the restaurant as a church. We go to church for sermons, for pastors. Why did we go to restaurants then? We go to restaurants to try their food. The food is the sermon. The owner is the pastor. The server are the disciples. Now, the place I went to was Kung Pao. It's on Northwest 21st Street. If you don't know where that's at, that's the Alphabet District of Portland. It's a historical place. It's updated. It used to be a broken down place that got updated, tried to be fancy like Northwest 23rd Street. You guys call that Uptown. If you ever been to the Pearl District, it's like, I guess it would be kind of like the Pearl District, but not really, because the Pearl District's all shiny and glossy. This place is half that, but it still represents almost like the Pearl District. It's a hipster place, lots of nightlife, lots of communities, because there are residential areas surrounding the place. There's lots of mom and pop stores that are on the 21st Street. So Kung Pao is one of the places that I went to because I love Chinese food, so I always like to try something new. But in other words was I wanted to see what life would be like in downtown in the Asian restaurant. Now, when you go to most Asian restaurants, excluding Panda Express, well, actually, even Panda Express, their main goal is to bring people. But every restaurant has a certain people that come in. Chinese food usually brings in Chinese people. And this Chinese place, Kung Pao, wasn't really focused on Chinese people. Their customers were diversified. There were blacks, whites, Asians, Mexicans, you name it. It was all in there. I would say if it was a church, it was a multicultural church. And the food is excellent there. The food is great there. I went with Max, Brittany, and David, and they live up to what they say. They are trying to bring simplistic approach, bold flavors. That is their motto, and they totally brought that out. But beyond the food got us. The food got us because we were judging the place. We were like, with real Asian restaurants, the authentic Asian restaurants, they have to be mom and pop. They have to have like dirty utensils. They gotta have like dirty soy sauce bottles on the table. They have to have their kids working there. We were bringing statistics out, but when we went there, we saw that it was authentic. It was a mom and pop place. The owner, husband and wife, were both working there. They were up front, and you can tell there are people cooking in the back. I can also tell that the owner cooks. But beyond that, I can really tell that the owner was trying to build relationships with people. When we go to the church, we always see pastors trying to build as much relationships with people, and they might miss a few, or they hand pick a few who they want to be having relationships with. But this owner, you can tell that new face, old face, repeated customers, whoever it was, regulars he knew by name, new people he wanted to get to know them. People who didn't know what they wanted to pick or what was good, he would take the time to help them. And to me, that is the greatest thing ever. That is like a ministry. That's how we should be, right? So when I saw that, I saw that this guy has a church. This guy, unknowingly, I don't know his religion, but him and his wife are ministering people, serving people, and building relationships. He has a place to gather, and he has a place to share. And I was once told, actually, few people have told me this. Ken Lloyd and Bob Moore have both told me that when people are loud, that's the real them. That's when they are most comfortable. And that's where they bring out everything that is them. And when you go to a restaurant, what do you hear? What do you see? You see people who are loud. You see people who are more open and not worried about judgment because there's nothing to judge, right? When you go to a church, it's quiet, sophisticated. No one's being loud, When's the last time you went to church and people were just shouting and just laughing and just having a great time? I'm going to tell you what, I haven't seen that for a while. And I honestly can tell you that I wish every church was loud. So, church to me is like this restaurant. I know it's a mom and pop place, but they are taking the time to serve others and get to know one another and try to love people. And for us to be a church, we should be like restaurants. Willing to greet, willing to serve, willing to get to know, and willing to bring people to gather into their place, their space. Next time when you go to a restaurant, observe these things. Observe even your waiter, how they serve you, how they interact with you. When you go to the church, when you have disciples at church who are willing to volunteers, right? How do they interact with you when you're at church? It's the same way how they interact with you in the restaurant. In the church, they want to gain more people, more disciples. In the restaurant, their discipleship is gaining tips and making sure the customer comes back. I don't know if they care or not, but mainly it's tips. But the owner is the pastor, and the pastor wants people to keep coming, right? So I don't know how people see how church really is, or how a restaurant is just a restaurant. But I see this restaurant as a church. And that's the first topic I want to talk about before we keep moving on for these 10 weeks about what we're going to talk about. I just want to open your eyes to see that church, ministry, serving God, loving others, doing whatever that we are supposed to do, that it can be done anywhere. That people do it every day of their lives without even knowing it. And restaurants like Kung Pao, where they're willing to serve, willing to get to know others, willing to take the time and be patient and humble, that to me is a church. So next time you go to a restaurant, observe these things. Think about why you go and eat at a restaurant. Think about the same thing when you go to church. The sermon you go hear, the pastor you go. I guarantee you go to a restaurant and you know your favorite restaurant and you know the owner. You eat the same food. You talk and you laugh and you giggle and you're loud. You be whoever you want to be. Do you do that at church? Or is it just half the things that you do? Because shouldn't the church be able to bring people in without judgment or worry? We take people to restaurants, even if they don't love God, if they don't interact with God. We love them for who they are, but the church won't accept it because of the people that they're around. But when we take them to a restaurant, every person will accept them because it's just a place of gathering and sharing. So if you guys can think about this, it's near to my heart. How you think about church, how you see church, and where it fits. Because to me, church is a restaurant. Church can be beyond that. Cafe, movie theater. There's probably more that I can't think about right now, but church is just what I think of it as, just sharing and gathering.